Thank you for joining our Q&A with Delos Institute today. My name is Vinitha Komareddy with Victor Kilo, and I will be your moderator today. Victor Kilo provides an array of services such as brand management, website design and development, business transformation, social media support, and live event support, such as this webinar. Throughout this live, there will be a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask there. If you're joining us from Facebook, please ask your questions in the comment section. I'm happy to introduce Delos Institute's co-founders and instructors, Mimi Bosika and Eric Owens. Mimi earned her bachelor's degree with focus in marketing, management, and international business from Washington University Olin School of Business, as well as her MBA from University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. Mimi's background in professional table tennis includes training at the Olympic Training Center under the coaching of her father in 1996 U.S. Olympic team coach. And she's also represented the U.S. National Youth Table Tennis Team for the anniversary tour of ping pong diplomacy in China. Mimi also is a two-time U.S. Open junior champion. By incorporating strong-minded principles used by elite athletes in world-level sports, Mimi's experience has provided her business foundation of discipline, networking, operations, and the elite entrepreneur mindset. We also have Eric Owens with us. Eric earned his bachelor's degree in biochemistry with a minor in physics from Texas Wesleyan University, as well as a master's in biomedical science, and attended medical school at Midwestern University. He's also a decorated professional table tennis athlete who's a 9-time national team member competing in 6 world championships, national men's singles champion, 2-time national men's doubles champion, 2-time North American doubles champion, Pan American Games gold and bronze medalist, USA Athlete of the Year, US Olympic Committee athlete representative, and has been inducted into the US Table Tennis Hall of Fame. Very impressive. Alongside Delos Institute, Mimi and Eric are also co-founders of Delos Therapy and Delos Robotics, and now recently acquired pain tool product called the Gumdrop. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome Mimi and Eric to this special Q&A session. Hello, Mimi. Hello, Eric. Thank you for your time today. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So as accomplished professional athletes and entrepreneurs, tell us how you decided to start Delos Institute.
Well, just based on our experience and education and knowledge we've acquired over the years, we decided to put together a unique combination of myofascial science, education, and the latest business principles, really focused on the wellness industry. And as a result, we've been accredited for continuing education credits for a variety of governing bodies in the United States, including yoga, Pilates, sports medicine, and massage. I should also mention, by the way, I don't know if people know, but Delos, the name Delos has an origin in ancient Greece, and it's actually still an island there, but it was known as the island of healing and wellness, where the world's greatest physicians and scientists practiced, and where the latest innovative ideas in healthcare and well-being were presented and available. So that's kind of the premise of Delos Therapy, and it's keeping that idea of innovation and the latest research and knowledge that we also bring to Delos Institute.
That's great. Eric, Mimi had mentioned Delos Therapy and having those roots connected to the Greek island of Delos, as well as with Delos Institute. Can you tell us a little bit about what Delos Therapy is?
Yeah, I think Delos Institute, or Delos Therapy rather, is really an innovation in understanding myofascial science. You know, there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the field of chronic pain and stiffness in a long time. Having gone through conventional training, I can tell you that the modalities that are out there, you know, some of them are somewhat effective, but there's a missing link. There's really a void, a gap of knowledge that we think that we fill that void. And the research is definitely coming out. But it's really just a way to remodel connective tissue. It's really the simplest thing that I can sort of explain, is that when muscle tissue becomes very, very hard, it loses its pliability. It's losing its function. It will become stiff. It will hurt. It will cause neurological problems. And what's tricky is none of this really shows up on imaging. So from a conventional medicine perspective, physicians are looking at images and they might find pathology on the image, but we don't have the technology right now to see connective tissue dysfunction. And people are trying to stretch it out and massage it. And those things are fine, but they're really not getting to the root cause of the problem. So we've developed a technique that really remodels and breaks apart connective tissue that's dysfunctional and puts it back into a functional state. The results are really, really phenomenal. And having all of this experience and being in a clinical environment for many, many years and having this body of knowledge and educating people, it's just a passion of ours. And that's really how the Delos Institute was born out of Delos Therapy.
That's great. And then it seems like that there is a biofascial science component of Delos Therapy as well as the business and operation science of Delos Therapy. Is that how it's been translated into Delos Institute and having those types of courses?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mimi.
I was just going to say that, when Eric and I met, Eric was so passionate about Delos Therapy and about bringing this innovative technique to the market, but he was wise enough to know that his passion and interests were in science. And he knew that in order to actually have a successful business, it would have been a great idea to have a partner who had the business acumen and knowledge and education so that that the combination of the two could lead to something great. And I think that's the same philosophy at Delos Institute. We are really working with wellness professionals, but we recognize that sometimes their passions are in wellness and they don't necessarily have the tools or frankly, the interest to really be focusing on the business side of things. So the Institute is a way for them to acquire some of those skills and knowledge to help take their passions to the next level with their companies.
Great. And Mimi, what current business courses are you offering right now as an instructor and as part of Delos Institute?
The focus really for the rest of the year is on helping people find jobs. I think that these days the supply of jobs is really low and the supply of candidates is overwhelming. So it's really important to stand out. And I think that there are specific steps and tools that people need in every step of the job application process. So we're helping them get ready and so that they can hit the ground running in January when they're able to start fresh in 2021 with a new job. Later on, very early in 2021, we're going to focus on other business principles, everything from strategy to sales, frankly, which is a topic that's often avoided in fitness and wellness. And I think it's a critical component of being successful in 2021. We're all desperate for some revenue. So sales is a big part of my background and expertise. And then, of course, we'll visit things like operations and culture and service so that there's a well-rounded business curriculum for anybody who's looking to thrive in the wellness industry.
That's great. I love the idea of the job pursuit series. The topics that are covered or the titles that you have for your courses are writing a compelling resume, the critical cover letter. Why is it so critical, right? And your networking as part of the job pursuit and interviewing skills. Can you tell us who would benefit from these courses, as well as any other key components from these courses that you would think that would be beneficial for everyone, as you had mentioned, and helping people with a job search coming into January 2021?
Sure. So I've had a very intense role in interviewing people, looking at resumes, helping them over the last 20 years in every position I've held. So let's start with the resume. The first thing is, and I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of them, it's really important for people to focus on achievements rather than skills. It's really important for them to show their story rather than tell it. So those are things that we'll tackle there. The critical cover letter, as the title says, is critical and yet overlooked probably 99% of the time. The 1% of the time that it's actually included, it's the quality is not very good. So we focus on how it's different than a resume and why it's so important and how it's different from a resume. And then, of course, interviewing. I've done hundreds of interviews. I think that in general, people are not really prepared. They don't do a lot of role playing. They don't do enough research. And as a result, they're not standing out in the crowd with compelling answers. So we'll do a lot of practicing of typical questions in wellness.
Great. And then your courses are offered through December. Do you have any scheduled for January so far?
We will, I believe, every Saturday so far in January, we'll have a course on business principles. And we're also going to be looking for feedback from people in terms of what they feel like they need right now in order to be successful and how we can support them. So we have some planned, but we're also listening to see what kinds of things are in demand.
Wonderful. And then are there any continuing education credits that are being offered as part of your course offering?
Yeah, so far the business curriculum has been accredited for credits in Pilates and yoga, and we're working on massage and personal training.
Wonderful. Thank you. Eric, what classes are you offering from a myofascial perspective?
Yeah, we have a pretty wide variety. We start people out with anatomy. So we have 2 levels of anatomy, a fascia level 1 and level 2. It really, I like to think of those as prerequisites because we can get into load adaptations for strength trainers. We can get into the science of stretching for yoga and Pilates people to really understand what's actually happening when you stretch and what's not happening, right? There's a lot of people think that they understand stretching and there's some real interesting innovations that have come out. But to understand that, the first thing we have to do is we have to talk about anatomy. We have to get the foundation down because once you understand the anatomy, the building blocks are there to get more advanced and take a deeper dive into some of these other classes. So we start people out at anatomy of fascia. It's really just getting through what are the new cell types in fascia? What is fascia made out of? How does it respond to different stimuli? What causes it to become pathologic? How do we keep it healthy? And then once we understand that, then we can start talking about, well, what's actually happening when we strength train? What's happening to connective tissue when we do eccentric versus concentric movements? And with that body of knowledge, now we know what we should be recommending to our clients. Right now, we just do what we think is best, but we may not necessarily know exactly. With these classes, I'm hoping is that not only we give you the anatomy, but we give you the pathology and we give you strategy to actually reverse all of those things so that you can not only educate yourself, but you can educate your clients. So in short, we have classes on anatomy, we have classes on stretching, we have classes on fascial pathology, we have classes that are more myofascial technique involved for a massage therapist that really wants to take their massage business to the next level. We have strength training classes. So we've really designed a curriculum that is really great for people that are in various fields of healthcare, right? So whether you're a Pilates instructor, yoga instructor, athletic trainer, massage therapist, we have something for you. I think you should take all of the classes because it'll make you more well-rounded, but we have very specialized classes for each one of those fields.
That's wonderful. That's quite an array, and I'm excited to try to take some of those courses as well, to get that perspective, even from business. And I'm loving to hear about what culture, service, and operations through science has to offer. So what are some future courses that you're offering or for participants to keep an eye out for from a myofascial science perspective?
Yeah, so the first round of classes is really just a myofascial emphasis. And so once people have a good understanding of that, then we start taking them through a whole journey of really the deterioration process. We can call that aging because it's all very much together. We can't just focus on myofascial health in a vacuum because the health of the body is so dependent on movement patterns, exercise patterns, diet, nutrition, myofascial health and body work and all of these things. And if you're following longevity and anti-aging, really the science is really converging as to a real holistic approach. And it's been very fragmented for a long time, but I believe it's all coming together. And now we know what are the hallmarks of aging. What are the things that are happening when we're younger? We feel great. We have no limitations. Everything feels great at all times. And at some point in our life, we start to get some aches and pains. We start becoming limited. Our brains don't function as well. Our memory isn't as sharp. Our concentration isn't as good. Whether you're an executive or an athlete, we want to maintain a very high level of performance at all times. And so as that is starting to deteriorate, we can really just call that an aging process until at some point we can no longer function at a high level. So we cannot be an executive. We can't be a trainer. We can't be an athlete. We start struggling with chronic disease. And so we now know the hallmarks that are actually causing all of these diseases. And I'll even take it one step farther is now the the research is going so far that we're figuring out ways to really sort of repair DNA, to figure out strategies on how should we be living our life to prevent all of these hallmarks of aging. And so we'll be getting into classes that focus on something called autophagy. Autophagy is a really hot topic. It won the Nobel Prize in 2016. A lot of people haven't even heard of autophagy. It's really the scientific mechanism behind fasting. So intermittent fasting is pretty popular right now. But what does fasting do? Right? What is fasting used for? A lot of people will say it's a weight loss tool. Sure, but to me, that's really narrow-minded, right? Let's talk about the cells involved with autophagy. How do we repair our cells to prevent the aging process? And so we have great classes that will be coming out on nutrition, and not necessarily like a specific diet, because there's really no specific diet for everybody, but what are the genetic pathways that are activated by diet? What are the genetic pathways that are activated by exercise, right? These are things a lot of people, even strength trainers, they may talk about building muscles, but what are the genetic pathways that are activated whenever we strength train, and why does it matter? And so we'll get a lot into genetics, the genetics of fasting, the genetics of cold thermogenesis or cold therapy or hot therapy, the genetics of diet and nutrition, the genetics of movement. So we can really have a comprehensive understanding of this deterioration process that we call aging, and some very specific strategies to mitigate that.
That's great. You had mentioned having anatomy 1 and 2 as kind of these prerequisites for science of stretching or strength training and fascia. Do you think that the anatomy 1 and 2 would also be prerequisites for some of these aging or fasting nutrition type of related courses, or do you think they're kind of more independent courses that we could plan for?
So I think the anatomy level 1 is really an important prerequisite to any of the other myofascial classes. Now, if someone wanted to take it out of order, I'm not going to say no, but we might move at a pretty tough pace for you to be able to keep up with the material. So I think it's in your best interest to take anatomy 1, and that's really the prerequisite for all the myofascial classes. Anatomy 2 is a really, really deep dive into some very, very specific cellular anatomy and hyaluronic acid and fasciocytes and things that are really, really cutting edge, that I would say it's only for somebody that wants to take that deep dive. None of those are prerequisites to any of the longevity classes. These are all independent classes where we're getting into the genetics of diet and autophagy and fasting. You don't need to necessarily know anything about the anatomy of fascia to understand longevity pathways. So they'll be very different, but I do believe it's all tied together in one healthy body and a body of knowledge that can help us and help all of our clients. Because I have no doubt, and I'll talk about it. I mean, if you're a yoga instructor, Pilates instructor, how often do you get questions, right? I mean, I'm in this field. Every single patient I see every single day, they have a million questions. So I want to provide those answers. So not only I can help them, but I want them to trust in my expertise, that I'm doing the research, that I'm spending all of my time gathering knowledge to help them. So what would it be like as a yoga instructor, Pilates instructor, to have immediate command over all of the knowledge that everyone's asking you, and you can deliver that information clearly and concisely? That will separate you. And this goes with our business classes, right? We're all sort of in a you can think about it in a competitive world. And so what separates you from everyone else? And I think having a really strong body of knowledge will separate you from the other practitioners in your field. And it'll make you better, it'll make you more knowledgeable, and it'll make you more successful. And you'll be able to give back to the field, because now you're contributing and you're building the field. The more of us that have that knowledge, the bigger the knowledge becomes.
Thank you. And then were there any continuing education credits for your courses, and who would those be accredited organizations?
Yeah, they've all been approved by Yoga Alliance, the World Pilates Association. It's a global governing body for Pilates. So they're actually available for Europe and Asia if you're part of that organization. We're part of the biggest organization for massage therapy, the NCBTMB. We also are part of the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So if you're a NASM personal trainer, we offer personal or accreditation for those classes. We're working on a few others. We want this to be really medically inclined, so we're actually working with the AMA to try to get medical continuing education. We'll probably get approved for physical therapy. These are all plans that we have in the near future. to make sure that if you're a professional in this field and you want to keep your license and you have to get continuing education classes, a common complaint that I hear is that the continuing education classes, not only are they mandatory, but they're not that great. We want to make phenomenal, really great, compelling classes and be the go-to place for your continuing education.
And I'll just add to that as well. Part of the reason we created this is because there really is a lack of a well-rounded curriculum in this new field. I mean, it's really just emerging, and it's a lot more advanced in Europe rather than the United States. So we're looking to provide this education and this curriculum where it's actually missing a little bit here in the United States.
And I'll add to that, while I was in medical school, in anatomy class on day one, really the first thing we do in anatomy class is we remove this covering to get rid of it so that we can study the important anatomy. Well, that covering, also known as fascia, turns out to be incredibly important. It's just, there wasn't a lot of time spent on it because obviously a liver and a gallbladder and the stomach and all of our organs are very, very important. They need to be studied intensely. But the connective tissue wrapping around that was really historically just discarded. And it took some pretty forward-thinking physicians and scientists over in Europe to say, hey, well, wait a second, what is this material? Let's actually examine it. And now we're finding it has incredible functions and neurological functions and all kinds of different functions, and it can change over time. And those changes are really a mirror of the symptoms that a lot of people have with stiffness and pain, and there's been no help for them. Despite all of the technology that we have, it's a mystery why a lot of people are still hurting. And I think it's interesting that this material has been discarded, but yet we have no answers for stiffness, and we have no answers for joint dysfunction and chronic pain. And now that people are actually looking at it, now we say, well, wait a second, let's take a step back. Maybe there is something to this substance, and there is, and we're here to present that information.
And it seems like, fascia is super important as a topic of health and wellness, and the basis of Delos therapy stemming even to the 70s and 80s of when this therapy was developed to current day and how it's evolved to be part of, everyone's well-being. So I think this has been such an amazing conversation with both of you. I do want to turn it over to the Q&A. We have some questions from our audience. One of them being we had answered about the continuing education credits. Another question is there financial assistance available?
Yes, there is. We've partnered with PayPal, and they are offering some great assistance with payment plans. So everything is quite affordable. We're hoping to spread this knowledge to as many people as possible.
And that's for not only the classes, but our certifications for the Delos therapy. So if you're a massage therapist and you have a license, so this is an important distinction, is that our general education classes are for everyone. You don't even need to be a yoga instructor. You might just be interested in anatomy. They are available for absolutely everyone. But our certification process, where we actually teach you the therapy that's been developed over many, many years, they do require a license to be able to take those classes. So whether you're a chiropractor, a physical therapist, or a massage therapist, we will teach you the technique. I have no doubt it will have a profound effect on your business. And we do offer financing for those classes.
Are these courses online or in person, and how big are they?
So we're doing both. So that's the cool thing about the Delos Institute. Right now, I don't think we can do anything in person because of COVID. So assuming that is gone, hopefully in the next few months, we will be having in-person classes. But all of the classes, we do have a studio set up at the Institute where we have cameras and TV. So we'll be able to broadcast the classes live online. So we'll have an online virtual audience. We'll also have an audience in person. And we have some pretty cool technology that will allow both of those to be able to interact on the big screens. I think that will be a lot of fun. So it won't be just me or Mimi just sitting in front of a computer talking for a couple of hours and being boring. It will be very, very innovative and interactive. Some of the classes are as short as 2 hours. Some of the classes are as long as 10 hours. Our certification program is 7 to 8 weeks. So it's very, very thorough. But we've really thought and put a lot of thought into having some short classes that are action-packed. And if you're interested in learning more, we take you through the various steps to have longer classes.
I will just add, though, that the certification for the technique is required to be done in person because there's a lot of practical done.
Great. And that's a great segue into the next question of Mimi, we'll start with you on how are your courses structured? How many hours are they typically?
I've tried to make them as short as possible with the most impact. So the job pursuit, for example, that's happening in December is really 2-hour courses for each, the resume, cover letter, and interview. And that's a hands-on class. We're actually going to produce your resume and produce your cover letter. The others will be incorporating discussion, lecture, conversations, a lot of hands-on work, but typically 2 to 3 hours.
Eric, and your courses, how are they structured and how many hours are they typically?
Yeah, I would say most classes are 2 to 3 hours. You know, they build upon each other. So some of our later classes, if you decide to go that far, like our prerequisite to our certification course, which is about 7 weeks, 220 hours, all done in person, our prerequisite class to that, just so that you have a general understanding, that class is about 10 hours. Over a weekend, so 5 hours on a Saturday, 5 hours on a Sunday. But our general education classes are all about 2 to 3 hours, and typically we'll be doing them on weekends. And we're open for feedback. So if anybody here has a request on something that they want to learn, we can actually design a class. These are just the classes that I feel like need to get out there immediately. But if there's something that you want to learn about or have a specific request, you know, I'm happy to talk it over and maybe even develop a class for you.
I also just want to add that, you know, the vision for Delos Institute as we get started and for the long run is for this to be a hub of wellness education. So we will be partnering with the best of the best in the industry when it comes to yoga instruction, massage, nutrition. We want to offer a very well-rounded curriculum, and some of the expertise that's available out there, we would love to invite people who are those experts to collaborate with us.
Great. We're almost at time, so we have about one more question. I have one specific. How can massage therapists benefit from myofascial science classes?
Well, it'll give them access to all of the latest information. So, you know, this information, you know, historically has been very fragmented, and it takes a lot of time to gather the content, go through it, curate it, get rid of the stuff that hasn't improved, consolidate the most important essential information, cross-reference that with other professionals that are talking about it and verifying it. So what we're doing is we've done all of that work for you. So rather than you spending the next decade of your life going through and trying to figure out what do I need to know for these patients, or oh, this patient had a question I didn't know the answer. So rather than doing that, we've actually gone through all of that. We've spent many, many years doing that, and we're delivering that information to you. So it's a blueprint for success. We've been in this field for a long time. So I could tell you for sure that we can take a massage therapist, assuming you have a degree in massage, you have the basics and a license of massage, we can take you through all of the anatomy, all of the fascial dysfunction, and give you strategies on how to remodel that in conjunction with the business principles so that you can have a successful business. I can't imagine entering that industry without this knowledge. It will be very, very difficult. Of course, it might be possible, but why not talk to people that have actually already done it the hard way and say, hey, here's everything that you need to know. This is going to save you a decade of time.
I just have a quick thing to add to that. You know, for a massage therapist or any other professional, what I hear often is that you got into the field because you want to help people. And it is, I imagine, going to be very difficult to help people if you don't have all the tools and resources that are available in this very important topic. And then also all the tools that are available from a business perspective to actually grow and reach a wider audience and make a bigger difference. So we are a resource for you.
Wonderful. And Delos Institute's contact information is in the chat. You can call or you can email learn@delosinstitute.com. Follow their social channels as well. You can visit their website at delosinstitute.com. Eric and Mimi, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for everyone who joined us. If we missed any of your questions, please visit Delos Institute's Facebook page to make sure we address all those questions. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.